What's up everyone, how's it going? And welcome to a brand new thing. I've never done this. We are in Playground Poker Club in Montreal. So this is an idea I've had in my head for 4 or 5 years. And the idea is streaming live poker. But it's not the normal live poker streams you're used to seeing where you can see like 8 different hole cards, 8 different people mic'd up, and you switch multiple cameras. It's very much like a fly on the wall view, like what's it like to play as an individual. And that's the game. 2-5 hold'em, 10K to 100K challenge. Starting up right now. Let's go. First hand of the session for us, we look down at ace, king of spades. We are going to 3-bet on the button as the cutoff raised to 15. We make it 45, and we get called in 2 spots by seat 3 and seat 8 to the flop. And the flop is pretty dry, a 10-5 deuce rainbow. Not a lot going on. I'm going to decide to c-bet here 3 ways with my ace, king. We get called by seat 3 and called by seat 8. Moving to the turn, and the turn is a beautiful 6 of spades, giving us the flush draw and the do-over cards. I think this is a great spot to continue our aggression and try and get our opponents to fold some middling pair type hands. So we decide to bet 175. Now it gets back to our opponent in seat 8, who min raises me here. They make it 350 to go. So it's 175 to win their 350, plus the 175 in there, plus what's already in the pot. We have the right price to call here, trying to hit an ace, king, or spade. It is possible our opponent has a set, but probably not going to play a set this way, so we call. River is an 8 of hearts. Our opponent shoves, and we fold. Now, they do show a bluff here. It's actually queen X of spades, so they take it down with, I think it was queen 7 of spades or queen 9 of spades, something like that. They were semi-bluffing the same draw. Rough start. We've got to add 400 chips onto the next hand. We look down at pocket 4s in middle position. We get a raise to 20 from the middle of the table, and we're going to call. Set mine here. We go to a flop 4 ways, and we flop a beautiful set of 4s. Checks to us. We bet 45, and we go 3 ways to the turn. Seat 5 and seat 8 continue. Ace of spades on the turn. Great turn card for us because we expect to get paid here quite often. 175.
There's going to be some 2 pairs in our opponent's hands. There's going to be some ace-high floats. There's going to be some ace-high heart draws. All of this is great. So we bet 175. And we go 3 ways to the river. River is a beautiful deuce of spades. The backdoor flush completes. Trip 2s are there. We have a shove from seat 8. We call. Show down the 4s, and we take it down. We don't know what seat 8 had, but a beautiful pot coming our way. A bunch of chips. We look down at the pocket queens and raise it up to 40 in the cutoff.
You got about 1K back or so?
Seat 3 in the small blind, 3 bets to 155.
I call.
And
140?
we are going to call. I thought it was better to call here instead of 4-bet all in against our particular opponent. It's a friend of the stream, Corey, I believe, that is in seat 3. My thinking at the time was that I wasn't going to be able to get in queens super well pre-flop. It'd be okay, right? We get in against ace-king, we get in against aces and kings, but probably Corey would not stack off with jacks, in which case I think it's better to just play these queens in position by calling, and that was my thinking. It's fine in theory to play for it all, but in practice, I think this is the more profitable play against our particular opponent. So we call. We go to a flop in position of king 10-7. Not the greatest flop, not the worst flop. We have a bet of 175 on the flop. I think we should continue for 1 bet here and then probably fold the turn if we see our second barrel. But we call, and turn is a jack. Very interesting card. It gives us an open-ender, about 8 outs to make the straight. And it goes check, check. River is an 8. Check, and I have to decide on the river. Do I want to bluff with my queens? I do have a choice to bluff here in that the chances of us having the best hand of showdown are not particularly high. We beat a hand like ace-jack. We beat a hand like queen-jack. We beat a hand like ace-10 if they decide to 3-bet all those hands. But we lose to ace-king. We lose to king-queen. We lose to a bunch of different stuff. Can we represent the 9 here? It's kind of tough. Can we represent ace-queen here? Maybe. I thought for a long time I decided to just shut down with the queens and showdown and hope to see one of those ace-jack hands. But unfortunately, we see the top set of kings. I'm glad I did not bluff.
I was so close to bluffing, man. So close to bluffing off my stack to you right there. So close.
We have a raise in early position, a call in the cutoff, a call on the button, and then we squeeze it up to 165 with pocket queens.
165.
Call in middle position and a call on the button. We're going to go 3 ways to the flop with the queens. Flop is a beautiful queen, queen, king. Now we start with a check. We flop quads. We have a great hand, but how are we going to get paid? That's the question. Bet on the button of 165. We call. And the middle position calls as well. What do people have here? I don't know. I have quads, but I just went 3-bet pot pre-flop. Check, check, bet, call, call, and we have all the queens. Turn is an ace. Now, I think I should lead on this ace because my opponents are likely going to have an ace-king type hand, likely going to have an ace-jack type hand. So this is a good card for us to lead. I want to make sure I get paid from ace-x instead of it checking back. I want to make sure I get paid by jack-10. I want to make sure that I charge a king if it wants to continue in this hand. So I lead 225 into a very large pot. Middle position goes all in. We have quads. They're all in. The button calls, and I call, obviously. The river is a 4. I go all in.
All in.
And the button folds.
I thought we had a bad beat sweat for a second. I was like, holy shit.
I win the pot. What did my opponents have? I don't really know, right? I squeezed pre-flop and they both just called. I don't think they had aces or kings. It's possible. I just know that is a massive pot with quads, over $2,000, maybe $2,500 in the middle. That's a massive pot. Looking down at queen of diamonds, 10 of clubs. We are in the straddle. We get a raise out of the big blind and we call. Flop is jack, jack, 9. We have the open ender. Bet on the flop of jack, jack, 9. We are going to call with our open ender and go to the turn. Turn is a 7 of diamonds, so it doesn't help our hand. My opponent bets 100. Now, in this spot, this was a vibe situation for me. My opponent beside me, I thought was playing kind of tight in this hand. So I have an open ender. It's a paired board. It's an okay draw, but you have to remember we're blind versus blind here, so we do have wide ranges. The vibes I was picking up from my opponent was that on this 7 river, they didn't have a full house or a flush. I could just sort of tell by their demeanor that this wasn't a full house or flush hand. So I was trying to get, in my mind, my opponent to fold worse than that hand when I decided to bluff this river. It's a very aggressive play against a tight opponent, but I kind of had a good read on what hand they had. So I went for it. As we're going to find out in a moment here,
All in.
it didn't work. They had kings. They made a good call.
Queen eye.
My queen 10 failed to the kings. I like the bluff plan there. It was just a vibe play. It was like, hey, they're not strong, and we went for it. Looking down at king queen in the cutoff, we raise it up to 75 over, I think, an early position raise to 20. So we go heads up to the flop. Flop is jack 5 6. Pretty boring flop here. We decide to bet 90 on this flop. And our opponent thinks for a while and calls. Turn is a deuce of diamonds. Now, on the turn, we have a decision here. Do we want to keep bluffing our king, queen, or not? We do have to bluff some hands on the turn, and seat 5 is a good online sort of regular player. So is a thinking player and a capable player. So we have to decide what bluffs do we want to have. Our value bets are really easy to think here, right? Like ace-jack, we have king-jack, which is going to bet turn and check river. We might have queen-jack, which is going to bet turn and check river. We have 5s, we have 6s, we have our overpairs. And then what bluffs are we going to have? Well, we're going to have our diamond draws, right? We can bluff our diamond draws. And then what's next? What's our next bluffs if we want to bluff more than that? Well, king-queen is a pretty good candidate. It's a better bluff than ace-high because it's trying to get ace-highs to fold, right? Like that's sort of the target. So king-queen is an option. Also a hand like 7-8 suited is an option. 8-9 suited is an option. So the question is, do I want to bluff this hand? If the answer is yes, I'm making the assumption that my opponent is sticky pre-flop and on the flop, that they have slightly too many hands than they should have in this situation, and I'm going to try and put pressure on that again on the turn. So I come to that conclusion. I think my opponent is probably mixing it up against me.
240.
I bet 240 on the turn. And we get a call. After a lot of deliberation, it was quite a lot of time there thinking. River is the 5 of clubs. This really doesn't change too much for us. I don't think they have a 5. I don't think we have a 5 very often. We have some overpairs, but really this card is kind of a blank. We could give them maybe ace-5 suited
and the sets, but it doesn't change too much. So we shove the river into our opponent, and our opponent goes into the tank. Thinks for a very long time and calls.
Call.
And shows down a 6. I think it was 6-8. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the showdown there, but it was 6-8 suited. So that hand is pretty crazy. I mean, I think my bluff should probably work. I think my opponent kind of went a little wild pre-flop. Flop is fine. Turn's a little wild. And then river, I think if you call turn, I think you can call the river as a bluff catcher. But yeah, I don't know. I think that bluff should usually work. And it really changed my perception about how best to probably play this game, which is like people are underfolded. So we can't bluff that much. Unsuccessful, massive pot loss. We had 3,000 before that, and we've lost a bunch of our chips. We look down at pocket jacks, and we raise it up to 20 under the gun, and we're going to go to a flop.
Different feel, you know?
5 ways. 5 ways. Flop is queen, jack 10. We bet 50. We get a fold in middle position, fold on the button. And the big blind calls. I'm not sure if the small blind's in there at this point. Turn is an 8 of spades. Okay, so some hands make a straight. And we decide to check around. I think 3 ways here. Yes, there we go. And the small blind bets 75. On the end, fold. We have the set.
Come on, man. You've done this to me. You've chosen this sizing to punish me. Give me a discount. Put it on the red.
The flush gets there. There's a 4-liner to a straight, but we have a set of jacks.
75?
And the pot's big.
You get it. You get it.
The flush is good. We lose with the jacks. I don't think we can fold there. When we think about it, there is on the flop 150 in the middle. Pre-flop, there's 100 in the middle. There's 250 in the middle there. They bet 75 on the end. We have a set. It looks like the goods. I don't know. Can we fold the set? I'm not sure, but we don't. We give him the 75. We're on to the next hand. Queen of clubs, 10 of hearts here. Raise it up to 20 in the hijack. Get a call in the big blind against our online sort of aggressive opponent that won with the 8-6 against our king-queen. Flop is queen 6-5, top pair.
35.
They're queen 10. Bet 35 and get a call. Pretty standard on this flop. Turns an 8 of diamonds. Not the greatest card for queen 10. And we see our opponent lead 125 on this turn. It's a really bad card for us. Completes the flush, completes some straight draws, completes some 2 pairs. We don't like this. Now, against a thinking opponent, we need to continue with our top pair of queens because we're folding too much if we fold this hand. But we're going to have to fold the river probably if they pull the trigger and bet again. River is a king of spades. My opponent thinks for a long time, bets 150. And we have to fold with our queen 10. We could have got bluffed, but unfortunately, we're just not going to get bluffed that often. And so we have to fold the hand, and that's kind of it for the session. So that's it for the first session. We were down $250 after being up to $3,000. Quite a demise. A massive run up and a massive run down. But the first ever episode of this live poker series, the goal is 10,000 to 100,000. Add a 0. That's the goal. We started with the 10K bankroll. It's going to be $97.50 after this. And a pretty crazy first session. I would love to hear all of your thoughts as we sort of work this out. This is like very much a pilot episode. You know, we've got to figure out a few things. We've got to improve a few things and make it better. But nonetheless, I think it was some pretty interesting live poker action. And we're going to be back with another episode very soon. I know we actually have 4 in the can right now. So we've got more coming up right away. Thank you all so much for watching this. Thanks to Playground Poker for making this happen here in Montreal. I'm going to go and play in real time now. That's it from me. Subscribe if you're new. Until next time, we'll see you later. Goodbye.